Thank you, Mr. President. For the first part of the agenda, Mr. Zroan, you want to handle the revenue and finance?
Yes, sir. We'll have our regular monthly reports for May on Thursday evening. We'll have the tax collector exonerations. The tax collectors are charged with collecting so much property tax each year. Invariably, some people don't pay, so those taxes are filed up at the Lawrence County Courthouse. So what's not collected, we exonerate or forgive the tax collectors from having to collect. So that's going to be both with property tax, which is turned over to Lawrence County, and with the per capita, which is turned over to Berkheimer. Investments, every year the school code says that the board has to approve investments made by the business manager or the responsible party. And I'm asking again this year to go with the entities that we always use: PSDLF, Twiget, PA Invest, ESB Bank, Huntington Bank for one continuing scholarship fund, and PNC Bank for the capital reserve fund. Budgetary transfers, again, under the school code, you're not to overspend a specific function area. So I will be asking for authorization to make budgetary transfers at the conclusion of the audit, so in fact we don't overspend any functional area. And then number 5 is something that came in, I believe we included it in your packet. Currently we contribute $15,000 to the Borough of Ellwood City for the crossing guards that we use throughout the municipality. They've sent a letter to us which was included asking that we split that cost. The way I read the letter, it was about $40,000. Half of that would be $20,250 that I indicated in the communicator. So it's not in the budget at this point. I kind of need some direction as to how the board would want me to respond to the borough and what budget implementation there.
So is that $15,000 though, that we do that $15,000 every year?
Yes, sir.
So we would have to add,
About $5,000, $5,100.
Would it be possible to ask them for their budget to see where they're spending the money
Sure.
and their payroll records?
Yeah.
Mr. Carroll, what are we required to pay?
That would be fun, Kathy.
We're required to pay not more than 50% of the compensation of the crossing guard, unless the school and the borough can agree to a different ratio. So if we can't agree, it's 50-50 on the compensation.
Yeah, but
If
we don't
they
pay-
hire, if we request, then they could say, we're gonna pay it all. So I wouldn't request,
Yeah, we can't request it.
I wouldn't
we
request
back.
anything.
But right now, the 15,000 is all we're required to pay. They're
Yeah.
asking for more, but we're
Well,
not required.
as I read it, their compensation was 40,000, so our half would be 20,000.
Yeah, but they include the other stuff, there's other stuff added in that.
It wasn't clear to me whether the 40,000 included the,
yeah, I read this kind of
Yeah,
something that was on top of it.
Yeah, it made
Yeah.
it sound like it was on top of it, I agree.
if the 40,000 is just the wages, we owe 20. If it's, includes the uniforms and equipment, then we
Well,
back
their
that out.
uniforms consist of a yellow t-shirt,
Reflective vest,
a yellow jacket, or
hoodie,
vest.
white gloves, and winter gloves.
Yeah, we should have itemized.
I'd just like to see what they're spending the money on.
The guards, traffic guards.
I know it's for the traffic guards, but how are they spending the money?
So can we ask that, just to see specifically if that 39,000 is just for payroll, can we just ask that?
Okay.
And then,
We're just supposed to
If
take
so-
their word for it?
I mean, that's all we're doing, is verifying that that is just for the
Compensation.
pay.
We're just asking to clarify. I guess if you want to ask them to clarify or
I don't
provide
know that.
documentation to.
Yeah, I would rather, I want to see documentation.
So, Mr. DeCara, may I ask what documentation, are we talking about payroll stubs, payroll information with names and so forth, or
The W-2s would be the easiest way to
W-2s?
probably confirm it for last year anyway, and what their budget would be for, well, their budget's not on I think they do their budget on a yearly.
That's really what we want, is just documentation of the potential.
I'd ask for
40,000.
W-2, I'd show you last year's wages. I can't see it being substantially higher this year.
The only question I would have is like the Memorial Day parade and the crossing guard around.
Yeah, well, we paying for
Is
that.
that part of their wages, that the 40,000?
I would think not. that's not related to school crossing guards, is it? I mean, Memorial Day, the parade?
That should be our, we shouldn't pay
obligation.
that, so, I mean, you would wanna, if you wanted to confirm that, then you'd have to see their time sheets or payroll records. Like how many hours, something that shows the hours they worked.
Yeah, because there's other times that they call them out also,
Yeah,
Usually for.
every parade. Well, that's one of the reasons I wanted to see some kind of documentation.
so we shouldn't be required to pay for that.
No.
It's wonderful we have such a good line of trust.
Rapport,
Council.
good line of rapport.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll ask for information and we'll kind of go from
And
there.
I wouldn't answer the question about reviewing the locations, because I think if we add additional sites, that would be seen as
Right, we
requesting.
wouldn't. No, we don't wanna do that.
And I think in the past, we've relied on the police.
I don't wanna see us where that 40,000
Tell us.
gone.
What I did was I just updated the budget information for you. And I could go over it quickly, if you would like. I just put the presentation together similar to what we did the first few times. And so if everybody has a book, at the very first page is just, people ask what's the impact of a 0.75 mil increase. So what I've done is I've put the assessed value on the left side, what the current taxes are at 15.81 mils, what the proposed taxes would be at 16.5, and what that increase would be.
Excuse me.
The median assessed value is about $66,000, so half of the people would pay a little more than $45, and half the people would pay a little bit less than $45 throughout the district. Okay, the revenues really haven't changed, so I'm really not gonna cover too much on that. On the first page, I will point out, though, that the property tax reduction money did come through. So we're gonna get $690,415, which is $124 different than what we got last year. So I reduced the property taxes from the first meetings that we had to reflect $690,000 less. And then the second page of revenues, which are continuing to be local revenues, delinquent taxes and stuff, excuse me. Again, not much has changed there from the last meeting. The substantial one was, you notice that the bottom line, the miscellaneous revenue, was all that extra money that came in from the Midwest Combine and getting out of that consortium. The third page, the only real adjustment I made was I did add the access funds, which is in the fourth set of block down there. You can see $133,000 in access funds to fund special education administrator. And then what I did was I also pulled out $348,000 from basic ed, and I added that to the PA accountability or ready to learn block. There's quite a bit of discussion about whether the ready to learn block is going to be available or not. The Director of Education is going to be making a speech, or there's a webinar going on, I believe, Thursday, and then next week with what she thinks the state of the budget is. So we'll hopefully have some more information on how it's all going to play out. And then we get to the bottom line. Total revenues are $26,395. Total projected expenses after we met last May 22nd came down to $26,988,166. So we're looking at a deficit today with this particular budget of $592,000. And then what I wanted to show is an illustration as of June 30th. Last year, our fund balance was $5.5 million. I've estimated the surplus this year, but quite honestly, I'm trying to buy some things out of this year's budget, so that surplus may diminish just a bit. But anyway, we'll have an estimated fund balance at the end of this year of 5.6. If we do go through the $592,000 deficit spending, we would still have a fund balance of approximately $5,050,000 come next June 30th.
What was our deficit going into this year, Mr. Zerko?
We budgeted $1.1 million in deficit.
And we're gonna break even.
We're gonna break even because of the several things that happened, the bond refinancing,
More revenues.
the revenue from the Midwest Combine, and there was one other issue. I was able to pay off the buy-in to the Allegheny County School Consortium early. I did that last year, so we were able to save some money. And then what I did was I just outlined the expenditures based on all the discussions that we had May 22nd. And, I mean, I don't intend to go through it all again unless you want me to, but I mean, as you peruse it, you'll see that a lot of it hasn't changed, but based on, again, the discussions we had at the 22nd, I went ahead and made the adjustments. I will point out that $220,000 was our increase, $221,000 for salaries, which is less than 2%. And the major item was our benefits, which went up 6.67%. The bulk of that was retirement, which was over $500,000. So that's really where our cost pushed. And then when you get to the very last page, when it's all said and done, our increase in expenses was, again, less than 2%, 1.79. So I think we've done pretty well for what we've got at this point in time. So I will have on the agenda, unless I'm directed otherwise this evening, this budget, which represents a 0.75%, 0.75 mil increase. Anything I can help anybody with, or are we okay? Okay, then what'll come along with the budget, I get assessed values from the courthouse, so I'll prepare a tax duplicate. And I always have to do this twice, because it seems like the assessed value changes constantly. We will approve something based on the most common, or current assessed value times the millage rate, and that's what we'll charge to the elected tax collectors. The duplicates will then be prepared by the assessor's office, and I will receive actual numbers based on what those duplicates are. I'll bring those numbers back in August for the board to consider one more time. The tax resolutions will be on the agenda. These are actually the verbiage implementing the property tax, the earned income, the LST, the realty transfer tax. It's typical of what we do every June in implementing those resolutions. The tax installment resolution is just for your information. This goes back to June 2008. I do it because we have new members on the board, letting them know that we do accept property taxes in installments, 3 payments. I've listed the dates there, August 31, September 30, October 31, and there's a penalty of 10% if it's not paid on a timely basis. Again, we don't have to redo the resolution, but informational purposes. The homestead farmstead exclusion, this is the result of us receiving the gaming monies. As a result of receiving $690,000, each taxpayer that has an approved homestead farmstead application gets a break on their assessed value. As a result of the break on the assessed value, they get a break on the property taxes. It calculated out to a reduction in assessed value of $10,380, which translates into about $171 in property tax break due to the Gaming Act 1 revenues. So there'll actually be a calculation and a resolution supplied on Thursday evening. The fund balance resolution, you may be aware from past years that we break our fund balance into those funds that are assigned or committed and those that are unassigned. So all I'll do with the fund balance resolution, which is part of the state budget form, is plug in the number that's committed. And when we commit that, we usually say that it's for benefits for the early retirement and to pay off some of the GASB benefits that are out there. The unassigned is basically the rainy day fund that we would have access to if in fact we needed it. The insurance program, I did get quotes from 3 different companies this year, and the incumbent continues to be low. The price is $65,398 for the property, auto, liability. It is a 4% increase, but I consider that pretty good, considering the fact that we had $20,000 in claims this year. So our loss ratio is not very good, but because we're in our 2nd year with this company, I think they want to try to maintain the business, and I think we did pretty well. I got some quotes for workers' compensation, and although I had $125,000 budgeted, the actual quote came back at $106,000, so I was able to take $15,000 out of the budget from May 22 to June. We've worked with this particular agent, Arthur J. Gallagher Company, for many years, and I feel pretty confident that they've got us some pretty competitive rates. Medical insurance, it's a 5.75% increase. That's pretty good considering what the industry is. I believe it's up around 10 or 12%. You may remember that this is the Allegheny County Schools Consortium, where it's a 24-member board of directors, 12 labor, 12 management. Those people get together, they modify the plan so that premiums can be kept in check. So They increased the deductible this year in the HMO, they increased a couple of co-pays along the way, so we were able to keep the increases to 5.75. There's actually a decrease in premium in the budget because we did have to budget last year to buy into that particular consortium. Life insurance, our current policy expires at the end of June this year. The agent was able to shop our business and was able to get us actually a 5% reduction. So our rates are going down to 0.147 for life insurance and 2 cents per thousand for accidental death and dismemberment. That's through the Associated Life Underwriters. They're out of Meadville, and it's a 3-year rate guarantee. So we should be pretty good for the next 3 years. Then we have an agreement for participation with the IU4. Because we host intermediate unit classes for special needs students, we provide them the school lunch application. We handle all of that. We make the claims for the reimbursement. We keep the reimbursement. And this is agreement between the district and the IU saying that we're going to go ahead and do that. I guess if we chose not to, then the IU would have to handle it on their own, and it would probably be burdensome. Dental rates are not increasing at all, nor is the administrative fee, but again, I'll have that rate approved hopefully on Thursday by the board for informational and history purposes. Long-term disability, same thing. It's a rate hold for probably the 8th or 9th or 10th consecutive year. It's $8.25 per month, and we'll have that on the agenda for board consideration. I do need a little bit of direction on the athletic insurance. We do have an athletic insurance policy that's been in place for many years that is a very nice policy. It's got high limits, it's fairly lucrative, and the current cost with the increase of 2.5% would be $9,806. Knowing the situation we're in, I asked the agent if he might have some alternatives for us, and you can see that he provided me information on a $1,000 and $2,500 deductible program, as well as programs with co-insurance and deductibles. What this basically does is shift the cost to the parent. The way the program works is it's a $100 excess policy, which means the district pays, or the insurance pays the first $100, then it reverts to the parent's insurance. If the parent doesn't have insurance or they exhaust theirs, then it reverts back to the school district. So if you added the $1,000 deductible or $2,500 deductible, we would pay the first $100, then the parent's insurance would pay, but they would also be responsible for a $1,000 deductible until the coverage came back to the school district. So I'm not sure if you want to maintain what we currently have. I mean, I don't think our claims are that high against that policy. I mean, 2.5% is a fairly reasonable increase, or whether you'd like to try to do something with the addition of deductibles, co-insurance, and so forth. I can say, and I didn't do a detailed survey, but I know that there are a lot of school districts in Lawrence County that don't offer the insurance. It's on the parents to have insurance for their kid to play. Some of the other schools provide insurance only for football. This particular policy is across the board, every sport, including, I know cheerleaders for sure, and I believe band as well. So it's covering every kid that's in an athletic type of activity.
What are the figures with the 2%?
That's 9,806.
9,000.
Yeah, that's what it is. It is in the budget at this point. I have $10,000 budget, so it's there. Again, I just don't know if there's.
You said other schools don't have this, this kind of benefit package that we offer.
No, well, again, a lot, I don't wanna say a lot, because I don't know the details, but I know that there are schools, I think Newcastle and Shannon in particular, that do not offer insurance at all. I think at Newcastle, I was told that if a kid doesn't have it, then the boosters come up and buy some kind of a policy. And I think that might only be for football. I'm not sure that it's across the board.
So do we require all of our athletes to have, would we have to require all of our athletes to have insurance to be able to play a sport then?
I mean, I would have to defer.
We don't require.
We don't.
We don't, because we cover it, right?
Right.
So I am saying if we opt out of what we have right now, say somebody gets hurt, that $1,000 deductible, that's our insurance, but the parents would have to pay that $1,000 deductible.
Correct. I mean,
If they don't have their own insurance.
If they don't have, well, they would have to pay it. I mean, once they get to $1,000 deductible, they would have to pay. I guess when their insurance is exhausted and there's $1,000 more in payments, they would be making that. It would not revert to our policy until that $1,000 was satisfied.
But when we spoke earlier, you had said that, to your knowledge, that hasn't been used a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I've not heard of any catastrophic claims. I'm sure that there are nicks and dings that come, but usually the nurse's office makes me aware when there's a claim.
Nothing too
But,
major.
I mean, I don't hear too much, so I mean, I didn't think to get the, what the experience is.
But it wouldn't be a bad thing then to raise it to 1,000 from the 100. Would save
Well,
some
again, it's not,
cover.
it would be the first time the parents would be responsible for the deductible. Right.
And we don't really have a number of how many kids actually don't have insurance, of course.
I don't know.
Because they, we wouldn't be able to know that information.
Now, again, I could say that this policy does not go into effect until August 1. If you wanted me to try to get additional information, then I could do that and communicate through the mail.
I think that'd be all right if you could do that.
Get additional.
Get us some additional information on it.
I don't know, but it's getting more and more into the pay to play, and I don't know if we wanna do that.
But this isn't,
Exactly where it's at.
but this isn't pay to play, this is
Well, that's
extra.
more or less what it's gonna come down to.
A step in that direction.
Yeah.
It's just taking a step in a direction that I'm not sure we wanna go at all.
Rich, you did say covers band, cheerleaders.
Everybody.
Everybody.
It covers all weight training, all off-season training. So it's a good policy, there's no doubt about it. If a kid gets hurt, there's gonna be coverage.
I'd like to keep it as it is, you know.
Well, we'll poll the board and see,
All right.
what your feelings are. George, you wanna keep it?
Yeah.
At that,
Matt?
at the rate that we're at now, where it's $100 deductible, nothing more. Okay.
Yeah, it's,
Because there's-
with the 2% increase.
Right, because then it only goes down, what, $2,000 if we increase the deductible. We're then paying the 7,000, or is that the 8,000?
No, I mean, the $1,000 deductible, you'd be at $8,400,
Okay,
and it was $2,500, you'd be at $7,250.
okay.
So it's about, what, a $1,400 savings.
Increase,
Doesn't seem like that much
no.
for that kind of difference. If you even had two claims, they would have paid that.
What's your feeling on that, Matt?
I'll keep it, we'll keep it.
Kathy?
Keep it.
Keep it.
Renee?
Keep it.
Yeah, we got a majority on that.
Okay, we'll have the athletic insurance, the 9806 for Thursday.
Going in a direction I didn't wanna go.
Then item number 19, contract to purchase or sell meals. We do sell meals to the pre-K program at Hartman. We've done that for several years. We're going to do it again this year. We're not suggesting a price increase at this point in time. We're going to let Mets get in here and kind of see what they can do and kind of go from there. And then last but not least, we usually do this in May, but it was inadvertently left off of the agenda in May. I would like to appoint Philip Weiner as the school district auditor for the 13-14 fiscal records. They've been with us many years and have done a great job. They get audited themselves in peer review, and they've come through that with flying colors each and every time. And they do give us, it's a comprehensive audit. I mean, they're here for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I feel pretty comfortable that they're looking at everything and doing what they need to do. And I might also mention at this point, it wasn't the informational blurb, but the state auditors are coming in on Monday the 16th. So we'll start that process on the 16th.
Is that every year?
No, they do that every 2 years.
Every 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah, so.
He's so happy.
And
But
that's,
see, what they're actually coming in for, the state auditors, is to figure out a way to hang pitch.
it's changed a little bit. They're looking at different things now. They bring a computer with them and they just put stuff in a computer, and they've gotten away from looking at all the details, so to speak. And I'll be interested to see what this one brings. And they're changing the whole audit process and the things they're going to be looking at. I think this is still more a traditional audit, but as we get down the road, I think the audits are going to happen every 4 years as opposed to every 2 years. And it's going to be more compliance type stuff as opposed to
More
financial type
yeah,
stuff. I think
performance
they feel that they're getting so computerized that the financial stuff is now just
There.
taking care of itself. And I think they're gonna be more into compliance and
Performance.
performance. Performance is the word, actually, performance audits. That's where they're going. And that's it under revenue and finance.
Mr. Zarone, before you stop, there are two questions. A .75 tax increase,
Uh-huh,
and we're taking 592,000 from the fund balance?
yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on, personnel, education, or executive session items. We'll move to properties and transportation. We have 4 facility requests. One from Anthony Oviel, head basketball coach, wants to hold a basketball camp from June 16th through 20th, and is asking to use the large gym, concession stand, and locker rooms. It's going to be from 7:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. for students in grades 3 through 6, and his coaching staff and players will assist with the camp. The First United Methodist Church is asking for the use of the small gym on Wednesday, June 25th, from 5 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. to hold a character building basketball camp, and Al Campman will supervise the program.
Question,
Yes.
is there gonna be custodians in the building at that time, or will they have to pay the security fee?
I don't think they have to pay the security fee, because we really don't have security
This summer.
in the summer.
Okay. So who's gonna lock up?
Coach Campman is a coach for the district, and he has the keys,
Okay,
and he's pretty responsible.
I'd say so, yeah.
Holy Redeemer Parish requests permission to use the Lincoln High School parking lot to handle the overflow parking during the annual parish bazaar. They're asking to use the parking lot from Wednesday, July 30th to Saturday, August 2nd. They have used it in the past. Also, the TL track coach is requesting the use of Town Stadium. Just a track, I think he wants 2 lanes, they have a clinic. Also, the money raised will go towards the Lou Gehrig's disease. He's requesting 1 hour a day on July 8th, 9th, and 10th, and July 22nd, 23rd, 24th. Okay, Ellwood City Transit van driver monitor is a request to add 1 additional person to the monitor list. Portersville Christians asking for the contract for 2014, 15 year for transportation. It's $175 a day. The rate's no increase from this past year. Also, there's a clause in there, a rider that calls for the districts to put the cost of diesel fuel if it exceeds $5 per gallon. Let's hope we don't have to do that. Bid tabulations for general ward, custodial, and medical supplies for 2014-15 school year will be submitted for board consideration at the regular meeting. Feasibility study, it came up at our last meeting. The administration requesting authorization to proceed with the feasibility study concerning the potential closing of Perry Intermediate School. We'd like some direction on that from the board, Mr. Bazell.
What's your feelings on this? Should we,
Is the study going to cost anything?
Would probably do it internally rather than go outside. Sometimes we would go to our architect to do a study, but we probably would handle it internally.
Okay, yeah, 'cause that's one of my concerns is, I don't mind studies but I just wanna make sure that there's not an associated cost with this study, because we don't even know if we're going to close Perry School, so I don't wanna spend money on just a study if we decide not to close it. And, also included with this study, can we get, how the students are going to benefit academically from this, from closing the school, closing Perry School and bringing, I don't know what the plans are to bring the students, how we're gonna realign the schools, like, there's just a a lot of things that need to happen, and, I just wanna make sure that the administration, throughout your study, you guys cover most of all the parts that have to go along with this,
Well, I'm sure that that'll all be included
you know,
with the feasibility.
you know.
Frank, at this point, do you have any idea, you know, what you basically want to do?
We would, in our discussions, move the sixth graders up to Lincoln with the seventh graders. And the last time, last year when we discussed this, we'd probably move them on the third floor. The question is rooms availability. We have to look at the rooms.
Are they gonna be isolated?
The third floor, probably you'd have to have one stairwell where they'd use, yeah,
But they'd still have to use cafeteria, gym.
sure,
All the extras,
Sure.
music
yeah,
and room,
yeah.
the basement.
How many, I just can't think offhand, between Hartman and Northside, how many regular classrooms do we have?
We have more at Northside, I think, than Hartman. I can't give you the total number right now.
You know, theoretically, I'm just saying, you know, we need 42 classrooms, regular classrooms.
We'd have to have, K1 and 2 at Northside, grades 3, 4, 5 at Hartman. Probably to get the classrooms at Hartman, we do have a multi-handicap class that we get some money, cause the IU runs it and we get a fair share. It saves us transportation, you'd have to factor that in. Plus, we have 2 pre-K kindergarten classes at Hartman. You'd probably lose those, you'd probably lose 3 classrooms. There'd be probably less revenue there.
I figured, you know, between the two schools, we basically need to house K through 6, we need approximately 50 classrooms, which I don't think we have.
It'll be tight.
It'll be tight. This is why we wanna know if you
No,
want us to
I'm
go
saying-
through with this or not.
K through 6, not K through 5, K through 6.
Right.
We have 6 teachers per grade level.
Yeah, that's 42. 4 special ed,
You need special ed, that's another concern.
okay, and, you know, 2 for kindergarten,
That's what I
and 2
thought.
for the IU,
In the
that's
schools.
50.
Yeah,
I mean, there's 3 classrooms you're saying you can take out of Hartman, but there's still 3 that you're missing to pull an
we
extra
could,
grade level in there.
right off the top of my head, Debbie Wish, our counselor, has a classroom. That's 4,
And it's a full-size classroom?
yes, it's a classroom.
I didn't go in her office when we took the tour,
Yeah.
so I wasn't sure.
This is,
You guys sitting back there, you're shaking your head, that's why I'm asking, because you know the special ed
Well,
provisions
I'm just
more.
thinking of North, I mean, I'm in all of the buildings and North Side is packed. Like,
I know.
there's no
It is
more room at
packed.
North Side, so to have 4, 5, and 6 all at Hartman, I think there's 23 classrooms that I just counted.
grades 3, 4, 5.
Right, I think that's, Mr. Garda, is that what you're asking, if grades 3, 4, and 5 can be?
6, no, he said through
6.
6.
So 4, 5, and
Six would be in high
6.
school.
3, 4, 5, and 6.
6 is,
You have to remember
So 4
too, that you
grades.
can eliminate, music and art.
They don't have rooms anymore, they're doing them on the stages, like Perry, there's not rooms anymore for
You
them.
still have 2 at North Side.
They don't
You
have
have
rooms.
1 room.
They took that
No,
out,
we
it's
took
just
it.
card,
I took
they
that.
took that. There is
You
no
still have
more
classrooms?
music. Or, no.
She won't get it back
all
this
that.
turning
I
into
just
a
don't
special
see
ed
how
classroom.
6th graders are going to benefit from being in a high school setting. Because, I mean, I just don't see how they're going to be isolated. They're gonna have to come through the commons area, everybody else are gonna be there. We have 11-year-olds coming to school with 18-year-olds, and I just don't see how it's going to benefit a 6th grader being in a high school setting whenever they should be in an elementary school setting. But, I mean, that's just, I guess,
Well, yeah, it came up, we thought we'd put it on the agenda because of that. And we're asking you now, I asked Mr. Gazali to pull the board. If you, rather than waste time in planning, if just talking logistically, I think the board has a concern.
I voiced mine, I don't like the idea of the sixth graders being at the high school at all.
Well, seriously.
If it doesn't happen this year, next year, it's gonna happen sooner or later.
Yeah.
The population of the Ellwood City School District since 2010, 500 less people. That's a trend we're going in. So it's not gonna hurt to do the study, to find out everything, including academic benefits, because somewhere down the road, we're gonna do it, and the sixth graders aren't even gonna have to go to the high school, they're just gonna go to Hardin. But it's gonna happen.
Well, I agree with that.
Either that or we
I
should
think
just
we
go
should go
bankrupt.
ahead and do the feasibility anyway.
Well, that's what the
Yeah, I'd like to-
feasibility study's for, to see
Right.
what all the options are, and would it be a problem or a help?
The K through 5 component and the K through 6
Six.
component in the elementary schools.
Now, speaking with, the administration I was in a couple of weeks ago, they had given some alternate suggestions for things for us to consider for the board. And if you guys have any other suggestions, or you'd like to even voice those now to the board so that they all heard what I heard, I'd appreciate it. So I don't have to be the one speaking, because I'm not the one who knows the full gist of it, but I'd like them all to hear there are other things that we need to consider, that we can save money.
Were you referring, I think Mr. Mancini might have brought up about
He had mentioned a couple,
the credits
um,
going from 25 possibly to
21 over
22,
a
and go
period
to
of
a
time.
6 or 7 period day. Right now, we have 8 periods plus lunch,
Right.
and you would have, if you would cut back, it'd be a 6 period day or a 7 period day plus lunch. And you'd lose some staffing there. Probably, you'll get some concerns from parents, because the better students might not be able to take all the academic courses they want to take.
But we have online now, correct? That they could supplement anything that we want.
Like a band and choir.
Well, I'm not saying that,
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Sovich, what do we have, are there even AP courses available online?
There are AP courses available online within the courses that we offer. We offer all core courses, English, math, science, social studies, and then we do offer some electives online also. That would just have to be logistical type thing that would need to be worked out. AP courses are available, I would just have to look at the cost of the actual AP course and what it would cost to bring it over to our service.
But there is just another, some
That's-
kind
yeah.
of study
Yeah.
that they gave, there was just another, something that was thrown at me that I didn't even realize that we could think about. And the other thing that they had mentioned was, half-day kindergarten, because that, again, can save the school district a lot of money, going backwards.
I kinda like the half-day kindergarten idea. I mean, I know, I didn't do half-day kindergarten, but I think my brother might have. And, yeah, I went into a couple kindergarten classes, this year, and I saw, I understand that they're receiving education and things like that, but I think we can get away with a half-day kindergarten. Instead of having 6 kindergarten classes, we would only have to have 3 kindergarten classes, and the kids could come in half-day, and we'd save 3 kindergarten teachers' salaries, and the kids would still be getting basic kindergarten education. So, I mean, I think it's a good idea, doing kindergarten half-day.
Mr. Mancini, Mr. Light, Mr. Sovich, did you guys have any other suggestions?
The biggest ones is the credits. We went from start at 27 a few years ago, now we're at 25. We're still at one of the highest ones in the county.
Are we?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go back to 21, but if we're at that type of level and something we need to discuss, we could discuss it.
So that is something that we could do get more information so that we can see money here, there. Any other thoughts, anybody?
As far as 6th grade coming here, rooms at the high school aren't an issue. I have rooms. Trying to keep them isolated is an issue. And like Mr. Morello said, the educational value of being here with an 18-year-old is an issue. Lunches will be an issue. where, I mean, we start right now, lunches at approximately 10 to 11, and we don't end until about 1 o'clock. So you add another 140, 150 bodies in during that time. The specials, right now, Mr. Garda, correct me, with, in the elementary, it's library, it's art, it's PE, music, computer, and library. I say library. Okay, so I really don't wanna shut our library down so sixth graders can have library class, because our teachers take the students to the library. I don't have a computer teacher to teach sixth grade. Our teacher would have to come up with them. I mean, so those are the lunches, the rotation, and keeping them isolated so it's an educational experience for them would be my big issues. Classrooms wouldn't be an issue. I can make that work.
What, well, I guess this will come out of this study, but like, off the top of your head, do we know what, like, how are we going to benefit by closing Perry School? Like, is it just, isn't the building already paid off? Is it? So, I mean, utility costs, or,
Probably, we have 2 custodians there, 7 to 3 and the 3 to 11. We have 2 cafeteria workers there. We do have a secretary and a library clerk that rotates, so you wouldn't lose that position. That'd be full-time. Both buildings would have full-time library clerks. So you wouldn't eliminate any teachers, I don't think.
what are we going to do with the school after we close it?
Does the word blow on it real hard? It'll
That
fall over.
big building is not gonna fall over. It's a good building,
Boy,
a good old schoolhouse. It has such character.
here's another question though I have. Going back to half-day kindergartens, and you notice I said going back, 'cause that's what they used to do when I was a kid. But that might save us a little bit on teaching salaries.
3 positions,
Huh?
3 positions.
Yeah, but what's it do to the kids? It's not really helping.
I think we fund the kindergarten teachers through the grant.
Just one,
One.
basically, yeah.
But the grants are going away.
Yeah.
It's scary, we may lose
I
them
know.
this year and be 350,000 more in the debt.
And I don't think, it would, going half-day kindergarten would so much hurt, the kindergarten students academically. I think,
And they still have nap time and they still do, play. I mean, it would just become more school oriented. I mean,
Okay. So we go back to half-day with them, right? Then comes first grade. Now they're going full day. Okay, so do we have a little bit of, are we creating a problem for them at the first grade level then? They're not used to that
You
full
gotta look
day.
over there and our elementaries aren't here. It's just another suggestion that the board needs to hear, that we have, this is another option to save money. I mean, we're looking for options.
Closing Perry School is an option to saving money too. But what are you gonna do with all the people? And I think that's what the feasibility study has to come up with.
Well, I would just like to see everything kind of looked at, not just one thing, so that when we do make a decision as a board, we have all the information for all the different things, and we can then weigh them. Pros and cons, here they are, there's 4 or 5
A
studies.
That's what the
study is
feasibility
that.
study is.
Right.
That they'll look at every angle.
Right, but I'm just saying, not just for closing Perry, I'd like to see what it'll save us to go to half-day kindergarten, and what it'll save us if we start moving the credits down, so that we can look at it and say, well, over the next, this year's, then we know which way is the better road for us to take.
The feasibility study is to whether we wanna close the school or not close the school. Now, we get into all this other stuff. You know, you're
These are
putting on the
options.
scope.
Well,
You know, we
need
can
to-
look at each option as indicated, you know. For example, the half-day kindergarten. We can look at, have a study just on that issue. On dropping, to,
Credits.
what'd you say, 21 credits?
Well, that's
Well,
a state
that's
minimum.
minimum.
Yeah.
You probably wanna go higher, yeah.
Dropping back to that, or to wherever. That's another, let's look at.
Right.
But let's this original question is, what do we wanna do with Perry School? So let's just find out what that is to start with. And then we'll go with these other options that, you brought up and Matt brought up and somebody else brought up.
I remember when we went to full-day kindergarten, first we got a grant from Governor Ed Rendell, and the administration provided a whole presentation on the academic benefits of going to all-day kindergarten. So, here we are, 10 years later, and we're gonna look at academic benefits of going to half-day kindergarten.
What did,
That was, money was budgeted.
This is where we are at. When you talk about all these other options, my question is, why are we just hearing about them? We've been in financial crisis for 3 years. It seems like some people don't seem to, that's not a priority. And everything that we've done the past 3 years has had a negative impact on education. We can argue it all we want. It has, one way or the other. It's on us to, what are we gonna do? We're gonna raise taxes every year and take money from the fund balance, or we're gonna look at every possible option on the table. And am I for doing things that have negative impact? No, absolutely not. But it's between that and draining the fund balance and raising taxes every year. Neither one of those is a viable option. Neither. My point is, there are certain things that we talked about, like the plan for contraction that we started with Walnut Ridge. That wasn't supposed to be the final thing. We have known for 12 years, our enrollment is continuously going down. I've asked, and our strategic planning committee 2 years ago looked at this. It just died. No one ever went through with it and came up with, is this possible? I have asked almost every meeting for 3 years now about the possibility of moving our children from Lawrence County VOTAC to Beaver County VOTAC. Significant savings. Things that everything that was mentioned here, all these other things about reducing, these are all things that should have been ready for when the day comes. The day's here, and we're not ready. I find that absolutely incredible.
Well,
But
just-
whatever these things are, we better get busy doing them now. We had better get busy doing them now, because we are running out of options. As far as I'm concerned, raising taxes every year and taking money from a non-renewable income, like a fund balance, is ludicrous. That's not even, that wouldn't even be considered a plan for anyone.
Well, just for the record, in January, I believe I made that statement that I wanted to have a committee put together so that we could sit down with the administration and look for a 5-year plan to see where we're heading, and I was.
That's what you have a board for.
Exactly, but this is exactly what he's saying. He's saying nobody's ever said anything, but when I
No,
said
that's not what I
this.
said. I said the Strategic Planning Commission at least 2 years ago actually talked about that. Talked about looking at the feasibilities of closing Perry. And one of the things that came back from it at that time was
I'm on the strategic planning.
maybe we wouldn't cut staff at all, so it's not something we wanna do at this time.
Forgive me, but
That
I'm
should
on
have
the
been.
strategic planning committee,
Right.
and we never discussed closing Perry. It was not discussed. I've been on it for 4 or 5 years now, and that was not, did I miss a meeting?
The
'Cause I don't
administration
believe
never
so.
talked about closing Perry before?
Not at the strategic
We
planning
were
commission.
told to stop.
yeah.
I was never mentioned.
We were told to
strategic.
stop.
Okay.
We were told to stop, in looking into that process.
But you
I have a
did
folder
discuss-
on it.
But you did.
We started looking at it, sure we did.
Yeah,
Yes, we did.
okay.
I think we all have information. I think
Yep.
Leslie does, Kirk does, I think Frank Healy does. We all have information on the closing of Perry. But we were told to stop doing it, so.
My other question on the,
Hey, who told you to stop doing it?
We discussed it, and Mr. Schuster felt that Perry was still, we talked about that, and he felt it was still good. To close it wouldn't be the right time. Also, I believe we were tight on rooms too, I believe in Hartman. Mrs. Glegorn, was there a concern about, I remember special ed,
I don't think at any point we ever sat down, although we all have files, I'm
Yeah.
not sure, as an administrative team, we sat down to discuss that.
Yeah,
Because we were told that it was, at this point, it wasn't feasible.
yeah,
Regardless
So
of
that
we need to
entire
look at
discussion
all this.
did not
yeah.
pursue.
We are in a very critical situation, we need to look at everywhere
Yeah.
where we can find cost-cutting measures.
Yeah,
So we don't sit down looking at
yeah,
ending an insurance policy that barely costs us any money.
yeah,
I mean, some of the things we're looking at in this budget, decided not to buy, is, I mean, we could all sit here and justify and say, that's not really that essential. From a student point of view, all those things that we've taken away over the past few years, we say, well, we really don't need them. Those are all the things that make the high school experience unique and different. And that's why I say, yeah, there's a negative impact on education, on these decisions, but this is where we're at. I do think we need to pursue all avenues.
Well, then we probably should head back into cutting administration, because where our main problem with our budget is in personnel. I mean, am I correct, Mr. Zerone? That is where the big bulk of our
That's where the bulk of your cost is.
cost is, and we are already at bare bones, so that's where we sit, is personnel. So,
Well, is
again,
it-
that's where you come into going back to half-day kindergarten. You're cutting three teachers, you're losing those pensions, you cut an administrator, you're gonna take that salary back. I mean, you can make some serious impact with those things, and granted, is that the best? No, the more people involved in children's lives, the better, but, the budget isn't what it used to be. And we are gonna be raising taxes for, I'm sure, several years to come, whether we like it or not. We are gonna be faced with some very hard decisions. That's why I would like to see us be able to work all together, getting everybody's input and figuring out, having it all laid out in front of us, and then saying, okay, what is gonna be the best method?
Well, for next year, as I said before, I personally think that the county administrator now isn't the time. I'll be retiring, and that's the time, to reorganize internally. Because what'll happen is, according to the contract, the administrator could go down, if they're furloughed, they could bump into the teaching.
They can do that now.
Yeah. If they're salaried. If we furlough-
If their salary,
Right.
their salary doesn't get
But
cut.
somebody else's salary's gone then. So if one's going one way or the other.
So basically, we just have to wait a year.
It's not a pleasant thought, but we're still gonna have to replace your position.
Well, you could do
At
that,
a much lesser salary.
yeah, and internally.
Yeah.
I still think next year's too late.
You think we should do something now?
How much are you gonna save? 50,000 whenever you, factor, you're gonna be losing the
Well, we were
teacher.
looking to cut an athletic director position for $10,000, I think $50,000
Well,
is pretty
we-
significant then.
Well,
And that's not benefits.
that wasn't my recommendation either.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the whole picture. If we go to half-day kindergarten, if we eliminate, teaching staff, administration, we're gonna pick up some money
It's all-
somewhere.
It's all gonna, yeah, you're correct. These are the ugly things we're faced with at this point.
At this point in time, I don't know if changing things beyond where we're at, as far as budget-wise, as far as position-wise, as far as staffing-wise, for this coming year is the thing to do.
I'm not saying that either, but I'm looking for the following year.
Yeah,
and
oh, I
saying
agree.
This, and this. But
Yeah.
if you're looking at this year's budget, I mean, that's all you really have left to do. I mean,
Yeah, so it might be for next year. It might be a good idea, as Frank said, he's retiring. And he said, we're gonna save his salary, well, now, granted, we're gonna have to replace the superintendent. Okay, but, administration wise here, maybe with some reorganization,
I
we
was
could do
just going by
something.
what George is saying, he thinks something should be done, you're saying sooner than later, if I'm hearing you correctly.
George has said this for about 3 or 4 years. but we haven't got there. And I think it's a little late in the planning process and the budgetary process for this year coming up to do it.
Well, if he's been saying it for 3 years, then why hasn't anybody acted on it?
Because nobody else agreed with it.
Okay, well, if we poll the board and see how they feel about,
Pull the board on what?
on,
There's so many ideas going around this board and not one is a complete, concise plan on anything. You're just throwing things out. So there's no pulling anything. What are we pulling for?
well, we need to, alright, yeah, I mean, I understand your point, so I guess we won't pull the board on, looking at administrative cuts, but, I think some of these other ideas that are going around the table deserve, a feasibility study
Oh,
at least.
Well, I think that that's what we need to do.
We're gonna
We need
do
to
that.
concentrate on one thing at a time here. We talked about the feasibility study, which everybody's in favor of, I believe so. Let's get that started, and then we'll go from there.
And then we can go into each other one
Right.
in the same way.
You can't bundle them all together. You have to go one step at a time.
So we're going to deem closing Perry School the most important out of the other options.
Well, my
here.
understanding is that we were gonna look at several things, like the credits too, to give you 3 or 4 suggestions.
Right, I would like to see at least those 4, and hopefully Mr. Mancini or Mr. Lake can come up with something else, or Mr. Zarone, that, you know, we haven't thought of, or you haven't thought of, that we can throw into the mix too. I would like to see, and you too, if anything, you have anybody who has any ideas on how we can save, I mean, let's hear it. I mean, but those 4 are the ones that, you know, came from the administration, so I would like to see the information on all of this. I don't wanna see just one, because I don't wanna make a decision without seeing all of them.
And then, yes, you know you're gonna have a head start with one administrative salary gone. That's with fringes and everything, that'll be a good start for the following year. Also,
Explain that again?
When he retires.
when I retire.
I thought you said, what did that have to do with head, oh, a head start.
Head start on.
Sorry, talking about kindergarten, I thought you were moving into Head Start now.
Transition.
That was a smooth one if you did that.
We don't pay for Head Start, so I couldn't.
That one wasn't catching.
I believe that that's the step we should take right now. Let's do this feasibility study, get back, get us the information that you compile, and we'll go from there. Is everybody in agreement to that? Or,
Now that's on all of them,
yes,
all the topics,
yeah.
so we're clear, yeah?
Is there a timeline?
Next week.
Yeah,
Thursday.
We have another board meeting Thursday night.
Before
Probably-
June 30th.
Probably by December, January next year, I would say. Because they start scheduling for both tech. When they
Well, I would
start
say, yeah.
scheduling, the kids visit
I visit usually in fall.
in the fall.
I think we need to look at it like October 1st.
I think by June 30th.
June 30th, put on here, July.
You'll never get the information by June 30th, George.
I think you need to see how many kids are gonna be enrolled, cause just what happened last year, we had that rush on kindergarten that we didn't anticipate. That happened over the summer. So to have a completed feasibility student, we don't even know how many kids are gonna be enrolled in the district on, what's the cutoff date for the thing, is it September something,
First day
Start of school.
first day of school?
In your opinion, Mr. Mancini, how long do you think this would take to
All
do?
4 of these? To get everything involved,
Some of them, I mean-
transportation, financial, law, certification, credit-wise, like scaling, you know, you can't get phase that in like we phased it up, you probably have to phase it back down. So looking at year by year graduation as freshmen come in, closing Perry, you're looking at, again, certifications,
Well,
what's
you're
gonna save you.
Start on Perry with, if you can even do it logistically with, what, special ed?
It's-
Isn't that the biggest thing, is seeing whether Title I transfers and all of that? Because
That's
that,
not
he
supposed
could,
to work that.
that's not, I know, I'm sorry, Title I is not, but I mean,
He's-
there are a few key things that
You
if they
gotta
don't
get-
work, you
You
can't
gotta get
look
all
any
the key
further.
people together,
But how long, what are you looking at, December?
I would think around then. I mean,
I think December's
That's too long, that's too
But-
far in.
I mean, this summer, I mean, we're all, I mean, we got vacations planned, we got time, I mean, so this summer's gonna be mishmash as far as,
I think,
but
I think December first and say at our first meeting in December, we want
I
to.
think
First week of December, there's a
it's
reorganization
reorganization.
meeting.
I'd like to see it, I'd like to see it sooner too.
I'd like to say it tomorrow, but that's not gonna happen.
Well, can we
Just not feasible.
hope for October? Is that, did you say October first?
That was my suggestion,
That's a rush.
October first.
Can we see where we
You need
stand
the
at
middle of
it?
November, maybe?
But can we get like
I've
a,
never, I
how do
mean,
we say
there's
this?
asking 4 major changes to the educational program here. I mean,
maybe
it
not
took
them
us,
completed,
I
how
mean, to
about,
close Walnut
we'll
Ridge,
see
you,
where
I
we
mean,
get?
Perry, you have to
Yeah,
have
once-
meetings 3 months ahead before, you gotta have, so there's, I mean, getting all the key people again together is important, to find out. I mean, we can knock off one at a time and present them as we get them, maybe. Here's Perry, here's,
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean,
present them all at once is gonna be, that'll be
We got
a mess.
Matt here, why don't we agree in the middle of November?
We'll do our best, I mean, it's not,
Or-
it's
or
not something we've ever
updates.
planned before, it's
Yeah.
not something we've ever done.
That would be a
updates.
good thing if you could update us from now until,
I just.
our,
As the information comes in, and
We'll do one at a time and we'll present
Yeah.
them as soon as we.
Why don't you just do it that, I can't see him having it done by, until December.
Give me the priority, which one do you want first?
we're all gonna vary on that.
We have already taken, pulled the board, haven't we, to do Perry?
Mhm.
Didn't we already do that?
No, that's what we were doing.
All right, let's hear from about Perry first. Then we'll go to the others.
Okay.
They already started on that, so that should be quicker.
But that's old info. To me, Perry's the least of my favorites, so I'll voice that right out front. I would like to see the information on the other two before I see that. I do not like the idea, I've said it from the beginning, of our sixth graders at the high school. So,
well, let's let him make the study, and we'll go from there. That's why we're asking for
well,
the
he's
study.
saying which order, so I'm saying that I don't feel that, in my opinion, that should not be the first one that we do.
But what they're saying is do the study, if it's not feasible, then you move on.
Right,
But that's the one that's gonna take the longest.
Well, let's get it out of
But
the way
it's
first.
going to use the key components of the rest of the things that need to fit into it. So it's the largest part. If Perry is going to be closed, then part of that could be taking kindergarten, by the way, which I'm against, putting kindergarten back to half a day, to make them fit, to allow Perry to be closed. So they're gonna fit into those indirectly.
But if we don't close Perry.
But if you just go straight to the elementary, the kindergarten,
Or the high school.
and make the decision, you don't know how it affects anything else.
See.
All you know is I'm sorry, Bob,
Oh,
all you know is what your sixth grade is doing, you're not encompassing how it's affecting kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. You're just looking, you're locked into sixth grade. The feasibility will allow us to look at all the kids, and everything that affects all the kids.
Aren't we on number 5?
Yeah,
And when you brought that up, you said the board needs direction, did you pull the board on that?
yes, I did,
And we said, go ahead and do it,
right.
so why are we even talking about it? It's already done.
There's other things that need to be talked about too.
I understand that, but the board was already pulled on that, and all these other things came up. Why are we arguing over something we already pulled the board?
I didn't think we pulled the board. I don't remember
Yeah,
anybody
you did.
saying.
Can we pull it again?
Yeah, we did once, I'll, go through it again if you'd like. Mr. Garda,
You said yes
Mr.
Not to
Morello,
this, I did not.
to the Perry study.
Kathy,
Yes.
You did,
Bob,
yes.
No, that was the
That was the other thing.
last one.
Renee, you're
No,
against it?
I am.
Leroy,
Yeah.
Mr. Newpot. We're gonna do a feasibility study on, closing of Perry School. That's, our number one priority. And then, we have 3 other, things things on the agenda or floor that they're gonna look into,
Oh, I know,
as far as
I just-
credits, half day kindergarten,
I understand.
but we need to get one thing done at a time.
It sounds like that's a big key to everything else.
So we got a majority.
Number 6.
Okay, moving on, interim healthcare contract. We're gonna renew the contract with interim healthcare. We have 2 special needs students that, it's written in their IEP, so they need nursing services. And they're gonna provide it at a rate of $42 per hour. For 4 to 6 hours a day.
$42 an hour,
Yeah, that's,
isn't that a lot?
It is not. They pay all of their benefits. When we have looked at hiring our own staff, we have not been able to hire staff at that rate, let alone find staff, for nursing. I have 3 students, we use the nurses on multiple runs. I have students at Lincoln, Hartman, McGuire, New Horizon, and Watson, who all have significant seizure disorders, who have, if they have a seizure on the vans, have to have medical administration of a diastap.
So, that's, my question is just the 42 an hour,
That
you
was
said that's
the
not that much?
that was the cheapest rate I was able
Okay.
to find.
Okay. That-
And
yeah,
I
that's
did
what
We don't have a
research.
choice.
I did research
Part of
that.
the,
Okay,
It's part of their
IEP, yeah,
actions.
we don't really have a choice.
But I did research that, Mr. Morel.
thank you.
okay, replacing phone system, the administration has met, with, 3 different companies, and, 2 of them, Axon and Advent were the, pretty close in price, and however, Advent said that they would, we would be able to utilize some of our equipment to reduce the overall cost. Advent was the lowest at $119,000. They were pretty close, the other one was $120,000. So we asked them to come back with another proposal, and would like to follow up at the June meeting. Also, Mr. Zarone talked with the ESB Bank about a lease agreement to pay for the phone installation. Over the years, we built a good relationship with ESB Bank. They contributed $40,000 to the district for electronic sign. I believe that was $25,000. They gave us $5,000 a year for 5 years. And also the scoreboard, they contributed $15,000 for that. And we're assuming that their price would be competitive for a lease.
So that lease is for just the installation, that's not included with the $120,000?
It would be,
Lease would be for the turnkey,
yeah.
across the district. I think it's gonna come back at, I don't wanna say much less than 119, but they're gonna utilize our existing phones and see how far they can go with that. So it'd be about $25,000 a year, for the whole thing, again, across the district.
That's installation of equipment.
Training, software, other software upgrades for a period, I wanna say 5 years. And it's not all voice over IP, which is where we started, which is, excuse me, a Cadillac. We're gonna be able to use some analog lines and some digital lines where it's appropriate. So, again, I don't know how far the price is gonna be scaled back. They're coming in tomorrow to look at all of our equipment, to see exactly what they can do. And they estimate it's gonna take a 3-hour walkthrough, basically, to get through it, so. They will offer a lease as well. They're at 6%. I've not got the lease rate from ESB yet, but I know it's gonna be more competitive than the 6%. I've worked with Lou Frischkorn in the past, and I think they'll do us right. I guess the other thing we're looking for is, I mean, it's up to the board, again, we can have a second meeting once this is all together, to approve the vendor and the lease, or we can get authorization to move forward and then bring that to you hopefully in August for approval if we get to skip the July meeting.
I'm for getting the authorization to go forward, we can approve it in August.
I agree with Leo.
I agree, as long as, like you said, ESP's rate's gonna be will be a better rate than the 6% that they're offering.
Okay, moving on, field quality change order. This is, we put an allowance of $20,000 in the masonry repair bid to handle unforeseen problems. And we did have one already. There's a gap in the roof coping. That's the flat block on top of the roof, 5-inch gap. And it's gonna cost about $4,000 to put mortar in between to do it around the building. And what we're asking is that we wanna use that money to do that. It'll reduce our total at the end of the project, though. We put $20,000, we were hoping we wouldn't have to use it for unforeseen repairs, but it'll reduce it by $4,000 right now.
But, what does it mean by a cost to handle this type of issue was included in the original bid? Does that mean that, like, are they responsible for that?
What
Or-
it is, it's kind of like, they call it unit cost. So they anticipate that things are going to come up throughout the process that they couldn't have seen. So this was not seen until they took the caulking out. Once that caulking came out, they looked down into it and find that there's nothing but air for that 5 or 6 inches. So in the initial bid, they put that $20,000 allowance, and if they find stuff like that, you use that money to pay for those things. So this is gonna be used to put mortar into that 5 inches, fill the void, and avoid having a leaky roof. They're kind of shocked at this point we haven't had more water issues because of that void, so the caulk must have held pretty well. But that's what it is, it's not an additional cost to the district, it's just less of a credit we make it back at the end of the project.
So, and without paying this, they're just gonna leave the air pocket there?
Right, and they'll put the caulk right back in, and they'll leave it the way they found it.
Okay.
And that will just incur a problem down the road.
Okay, student affairs, moving on, Act Day, early dismissal days, you have it in your handouts. They're half days. Athletic trainer agreement is, we're recommending Burke Physical Therapy. Again, they do a real good job. Their practices for the boys and girls basketball, the football, they're around baseball. They attend the games, and it's the same price as last year, $8,000, I believe. Mr. Zone, I think you talked with them.
Yeah, I did. They're concerned that we make sure that they're on our workers' compensation handler positions, which they will be. And there are gonna be no changes, so the contract's the same this coming year as it was last year.
Okay, ambulance agreement with Medevac. I don't think we heard back from them, but
Yeah. Can I handle that one, Mr.
Oh,
Wood?
sure.
That's okay. I gotta apologize, I made an error when I put these numbers in, for the previous year. Actually, the previous year for junior high and JV football was $91, and for high school football was $142. So those numbers on that particular sheet are incorrect. The contract did come in this afternoon around 3 o'clock, and they're going to hold the rate on the high school football at $142. To me, there's a fairly significant rate in the junior high and JV football from 91 to 116. The explanation I got when I called was that we were behind on that particular rate. We had held that rate for a period of years, and compared to the other districts that Medevac is servicing, they're at $116.50. So his attempt at this point in time is to equalize our rate with other rates of school districts that he's handling. So if the board choose to approve that, then it'll be on the agenda for Thursday evening in your consideration.
Well, have we looked for other proposals from other ambulance services?
Not this current year, but we have in the past, and what it really comes down to is the equipment that the various companies have. I mean, NOGA's pretty much allocated to the schools that they handle, Medevac handles a certain amount of schools. And I don't wanna say that they don't want other people's business, but they just don't have the equipment to pick up other districts. So we did go through that process, and that's what we found through it.
Okay, moving on, Beaver Valley Intermediate Unit Agreement. This is for special ed students. educational program, we have 3 students, I believe they're at New Horizon. And the total cost is about $119,800 at $39,800 per student.
Is that an increase?
Uh,
It doesn't
That's
say.
pretty
No,
steady, that's
steady.
pretty steady compared to last year.
Feasibility study, here's another one for Beaver County Career and Technical Center. The administration is requesting authorization to proceed. We talked about that before.
So now on top of those other 4 that we said.
No, this is part of that.
This is part of it.
Oh, this
That
is,
was one of the.
yeah, part of it.
This is actually an item on there, looks to be an item on the vote on Thursday.
Yes, like the parity. Everyone in agreement with that to put it on the agenda?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, secondary book adoption, it's for Lincoln High School Biology 2 course. The book is over here, it'll be on display for 30 days. The administration is recommending to buy 30 of them, at a cost of $75 per book, or $2,250.
Just to go backwards one, back to the feasibility study.
Yeah.
Can we just have like one line that says that we're going to do the 4, so that they're all just in there, and I don't care the order in which they are, so that they don't just
Okay.
keep popping up. That way they're just there instead of separate. Thank you.
Okay, let's make sure we're in agreement on, it's the half-day kindergarten, credits, reduce the credits from 25 to either, whatever the administration recommends, 22 or 23.
OTAC and Perry.
Biggest thing I wanna know about VOTEC is how many hours a day they're gonna spend on a bus.
That's what they'll find out.
We'll have to do a survey probably to see how many students would want to go half-day. We may have more students that want to go, could affect the cost, or we may have less. I don't know, would have to,
That's 11 and 12, right?
Ride a bus into school, ride a bus to VOTEC, then ride it back. When are they gonna have any education in here?
Same way all the 16 school districts in Beaver County have been doing it forever.
You know, simply, is it the best way? We don't know. That's what we have a study for.
okay, moving on, 2014-15 PA Pre-K Count School District Collaboration Agreement. We do have 2 classes, 2 classrooms. They're basically our students. 20 students in a class, I believe it is. They're at Hartman, and the agreement is we provide the room, they provide the teacher and everything else. And also they contract for lunch from us. Summer kindergarten readiness program between Lawrence County Community Action Partnership for the implementation of a summer kindergarten readiness program. It'll serve 17 Head Start students, hopefully with the idea of increasing their readiness to enter kindergarten. Tuition, a student goes to Laurel. She's in their agricultural program. Our cost last year was about $9,013, and it'll probably be maybe a couple $100 more. They didn't let us know yet. Elementary and secondary student handbooks, we have some changes. There aren't a lot of them. Affiliation agreement with Robert Morris University. Just, the agreement sets the responsibilities and duties for this district and for Robert Morris, for pre-student teaching and student teaching. Service agreement between Lawrence County Drug and Alcohol Commission and our district. They attend our student-assisted program meetings, someone from drug and alcohol. At a cost of $2,185, and they also follow up on referrals. Okay, revised policy. There was a concern about updating our policies. We had in the old policy for graduation 27 credits. Okay, then I gave you the current policy in your handout and the revised policy. But in the meantime, PSBA came out with their recommendations. I'm gonna pass this out to you, and I recommend that, really the administration, I talked with Mr. Mancini, we recommend, and our solicitor looked at it too, that we go with PSBA's policy. It just came out Friday. We didn't think it would come out this quickly, so we wanted to get moving on it. It's general. Now, the policy, this policy doesn't, it just says that we set the guidelines for graduation requirements. It doesn't name say 25 credits. It's more general. Now, however, if you want to put the 25 credits in, we could. Also, we put in the last one for the 2017 graduating class, there's some guidelines for them. That's not in here. All this states that we'll post it on our website, the graduating requirements, and in each building, we do have a student handbook at the high school where the graduation requirements of 25 credits are in the handbook. So, it's up to you, if you feel that you wanna put the 25 credits in, we could put the 25 credits in. And if you wanna put the,
I mean, if we're gonna do a study on, maybe changing the credits, I don't see the need to.
no, because we do put them in the student handbook, and it's on our website right now. And also, the other one was, we said for the graduating class of 2017. I don't think we have to put that in there either. PSBA is real good in their research, and I don't think we could go wrong with their policy, because their legal department does a real good job in researching all the different laws. So what we'll do is have this for Thursday's meeting, and I'll have, this is the policy we'd like to go with. It has to be for 30 days on display.
So we won't approve, we won't vote on it until August then?
Yeah. Now, we have to also get information out to the parents too. I think I think it's September 2nd.
Couple questions on it. Number 2, it says counseling with students regarding expectations of graduation requirements.
That's when
Is that just telling the students
Yes.
what's their requirements?
yes, the guidance does
Okay,
that, and I
just
think,
don't, the verbiage is the same.
yeah.
Okay. And the only other question that when I read this was, I guess it's just the board, it says, you know, the graduate, what we require, but aren't there like the state, the Common Core requirements now?
That's pretty much, I mean, if you read the letter that came out with it, they kept it real vague, the policy, and they want you to put your details in your handbook and online and in the student, course request information, all the things that are the documents that tell students what the details are. So, because they make so many changes, just like our 27 credits to 25, we'd have to keep changing it.
Right,
So, they recommend a vague policy.
so that if it changes, you
So
don't have to
you're
keep
still
updating.
covered with, you don't have to change this policy all the time. What you do is you change your handbook, you change your documents, all the meta stuff that describes it, and that's approved by the board.
So,
Just when I read the part under students with disability, and it said the board shall issue a high school diploma to each student with a disability who completes the graduation requirements established by the board or the goals established in the student's IEP.
Right.
Or as determined by the student's IEP team. So it just didn't say anything about, like, the state, you know, all this new stuff that's coming up, so I just
And
didn't know
that stuff
if
can
that,
be in your, cause
that
that'd
could
be
be included in the
hand-
IEP, so it would just be in
Yes,
a
that's-
different way.
Yes,
you
an
know?
IEP student can graduate under IEP goals instead of the state requirements.
Okay. Just making, I wasn't sure if that covered all the
Right.
new things that come into play with, if they don't pass the test, that they can do the project. Does that all
That's the
encompass
stuff we'll
all
put in the
this?
handbook, and that's the stuff we'll
Okay.
tell parents and
That's fine.
letters and phone calls and
That's a wonderful thing.
Okay, we thought you'd like that. Also, moving on, Energy and Advanced Manufacturing Day. This is, we've been a member of the Regional Choice when they first started. It entitled Ellwood City, along with the 15 or 16 other schools in Beaver County, to certain things like cyber education, alternative ed. We've been a member of that for 5 or 6 years, then the grant is finished, but they're still continuing and they still consider us as part of the choice. And they're having a manufacturing day, April, I believe it is 2015, for Energy and Advanced Manufacturing Day. And more information will be coming out on that. Mr. Sovich attends the meetings. You want to add anything to that?
No cost to the district, they're gonna pay for the buses, they'll ship our kids down there, get really good exposures to meeting companies, doing some prep work on the back end, making sure they're prepared to meet potential employers. Really nice program, I've sat on the committee for a couple times now, and they're putting a nice package together for the students.
Also, you want an update on where you are with the prefab lab?
Yeah, the Fab Lab is at this point a go. We are securing funding right now through General Electric, and the Ellwood City Forge got off the phone with us today. Very positive, as long as we can flow money through our tax credit foundation, and they seem to be really excited to work with us on this venture. So, no matter what, my grant is still there, hanging in the air for $4 million. I guess nobody wants to cough that money up yet, but either way, we're gonna make the lab go. So, GE is very interested in providing the maker pieces for us. The Ellwood City Forge will provide supplemental money for supplies, materials, teacher training, everything we need throughout the years. So,
Just over, what are you looking at the startup date?
beginning of the school year.
Very good.
I'm so excited, great job. I mean, I know it wouldn't have happened without you, so.
It's a combined effort though too, it's everybody around us that's working hard to make it happen, so. Too important to let go.
It
We're gonna make
is,
work.
I think it's gonna be huge.
good job, man.
How long have we been involved with the Beaver County Initiative, Regional Choice?
I believe we actually started in 2006, 2007,
Yes.
and we were one of the original founding members.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It
And they-
turned out to be very beneficial for us.
They've saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars in cyber costs. They really gave us some nice packages, and they still are supporting it with just minimal fees now, even though that original grant has gone away. So we still get a good bang for our buck there.
Yeah, I think we, one year, we got close to $40,000 for dual enrollment for students to take courses through our other community colleges.
And that program has dissolved, the Regional Choice Initiative. We're still a member of that, but basically the director there has become the director of innovation. So that's why we're out exploring STEM fields, STEM careers, fabrication labs, everything that we need. And
That
that's
came
where
from
we're-
that.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
offshoot
that
of this.
turned out to be a really good move for us.
It just kept evolving, yeah, getting us edged in there with Mr. Lloyd signing up from the very beginning was, very impactful for us.
Yeah, Mr. Roy was one instrumental in that.
Yes.
Okay, moving on, that's all I have, Mr. President. Personnel, education, or executive items.
Might I mention under the, there's an agenda item, there's a supplement to the agenda, and we covered, I believe, we had a brief discussion on the city revitalization committee using the auditorium. I think there was a concern with one of the dates,
August
That-
2nd.
August 2nd, so I don't know if we approve everything but August 2nd, or just let them know that that's not feasible, or...
That they may not have parking available because we already committed.
So they can use the auditorium, just maybe
Yeah.
not the parking lot.
Yeah. Unless there's open spaces.
Now, here's the other item under the supplemental agenda.
Church doesn't use it.
There's a letter attached there that came from the cheerleader sponsor. And she's written a whole lot of words there, and what it really comes down to is we've not yet ordered anything off of the 14-15 budget because of the situation we're in. So the gist of her letter is that if we don't get these ordered soon, we're gonna have angry parents because the uniforms aren't gonna come in, and it's gonna be a problem. So I'm happy to cut a purchase order tomorrow if the board directs me to do so. Traditionally, what I would do is wait until Thursday and I have an approved budget. I then release the purchase orders. We're in the process of everything, and I have cut some purchase orders. The intermediate unit, we did that back in January. Once we buy, we're committed. So there have been some that go out, but for the most part, we've not let any purchase orders at this point in time. Again, I'm willing to do it. I just need the board to go ahead and direct me that it's not gonna be a problem.
I think she needs to wait like everybody else.
Well, I was on the phone with her today, and she told me that if we don't order them right away for their picture day, they won't have the uniforms, and should have to collect,
Yeah, that's not right either.
uniforms to whomever she passed them out to give to the girls.
We created this cheering situation for them to get left out of the extra teams and get extra cheerleading group. And I don't want them to come up to the day that they're supposed to be cheering and they're doing it in white shorts. Let's get the uniforms for them. We're not talking how much here.
$2,000.
Is it gonna be a problem?
It's in the budget.
It's in the budget.
already
No problem, it's just that we
Didn't
just
wanna
haven't
do it
released,
right away.
we just haven't released any POs. But I mean, I can release it, I just wanna make sure that we're okay.
But I think we should pull the board.
Is everybody okay with that?
All right.
Doesn't
George?
seem like a big deal, as long
Mike?
as we're not gonna get 15 other
your
requests
new
now
car?
because you just did that.
Yeah, we're all right, we're all
That's
right,
not
we
mine.
have 5 votes.
And then, not to speak out of turn, but there's one item under personnel and executive, the Kelly Services proposal. It's probably not, I don't think, Mr. DeCaro, that necessarily is personnel or executive.
It's not personnel.
Okay, so I mean, I can kind of go over that now. And again, I'm not gonna read to you, I did do an analysis and I included that in your packet. I mean, I guess at this point, we are recommending that we move to Kelly. There's a whole lot of reasons that I listed there, but quite frankly, the biggest reason at this point is because of the tracking requirement and the potential penalties under Obamacare. If we have 40 substitute teachers, and it's not likely that they would all start on 40 different days, but there would be a requirement to track each individual on their starting day for a period of a year. There would then be a requirement if they met 30 hours on average during a week to offer them medical insurance for a period of time that they qualify for a year. So, I mean, the tracking process is gonna be quite burdensome. I mean, we can try it, but again, it's gonna take a whole lot of time on my part. It's gonna take a lot of time on everybody's part to try to make that happen. I have got an opinion at this point, though it's not 100%, that we may not have to track activity sponsors and athletic coaches, which will relieve the burden. If we go to Kelly, then I would end up having to track basically only custodial, clerical, secretarial, which shouldn't be too much of an issue because we don't have a lot of custodial substitutes in the district. We would make sure that we kept them to 28 hours on a weekly basis to avoid that burden. I've kind of looked at it, we did use quite a few what we call floater days. And those are days that substitutes come in without a particular specific assignment. They help with the IEPs, filling in for time, they help with test preparation, and the principals could speak more to what they actually do, but they're not really filling in for a specific vacancy. I think that will create some problem at the elementary level, but there were 477 of those days, which by my calculation is $34,000 plus Social Security and any retirement costs. So I think if we eliminated some of the days we had people here not actually with a specific assignment, the budget that we currently have would sustain us. The other thing that I would also say is that as we go down the road and as the retirement creeps up from the 21% to 25% to 30%, then the difference between the Kelly cost and our cost is gonna shrink. So again, that's kind of my pitch.
How about increasing the cost too? They recommended it.
Well, what Kelly said, and again, I've kind of done a couple of spreadsheets. I noticed that some schools are at $75. We've given you two proposals or two scenarios. One is our current $70. And what happens is we have a hard time getting subs for $70 because they go elsewhere. So we are recommending potentially $80 as a sub rate